children. There are so many influential young trailblazers across the world whose talents include advocating against climate change, fighting for the rights to education, women's and children's rights, just to name a few. From activists to investors, they are young change makers who are paving the way for a better world for generations to come. But not so long ago, they were in kindergarten, with potential that for the most part, no one was really aware of. But that potential needs to be nurtured in any number of ways within the family, by teachers, community groups, coaches, mentors. And they may not end up being involved in facilitating life-altering changes that will positively affect the world, but just in fostering the gifts in any young person. We may be helping to create a future leader in our own community, a mentor for other children, helping them navigate the challenges of the world that we are entrusting to them within an everyday setting. And being involved in the lives of young children, we may be guiding them in directions they may never have considered where their gifts can be best used. If all this doesn't happen, we need to ask ourselves, are we letting them down, failing them? Because their lives will be less fulfilling, more frustrating, or without a sense of accomplishment that makes every day an exciting challenge, something to look forward to. That is what our guest today is going to talk about and challenges us today. How are we doing with the children, the youth in our community? Or what could we do to help them develop their gifts that will make them the best possible family members, community leaders, activists, and volunteers? You name it. What do we want them to achieve and be in the years ahead? So all of our hymns today are going to mention that challenge in some way. We'll start off with an old familiar one for our centering song. There'll be 2 verses, but with words that are just a little more inclusive than we might remember. One person is quoted as saying, "I personally don't have a problem with red and yellow, black and white, but maybe that's because I make up the white part of the demographic." And she said, "Thanks for making me think about what I'm singing." So, just words to consider. These words that I have chosen to put up were lightheartedly offered by one creative person. Courtney, by the way, it always goes like this, okay? but we convinced her the other day to play it because it was happy. So what do we do? Ian, will you go for it?
Okay, here we go. 1, 4.
The same one over and over.
Oh man, this is good.
Now you're playing.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here we go. Number
No.
No, you don't.
Oh, you don't have it. Number 222 in the books?
222.
Oh man.
And this one?
Yeah, Voices United.
Okay.
Okay. Courtney is now having a conniption.
Welcome to church, Courtney.
There we go.
Okay, verse 2. There we go. Okay,
Okay.
quick. Norma's already moving on to the next one. That's very good, Norma. Okay, we'll see how long we can get this going. Oh. God, creator, parent, mentor, friend, guide. With your love, you welcome us as your children into a world that you gave us to tend, and that's all facets of it. And we try our best. But we are always in need of your help. So hear us as we sing, pray, reflect on how we are called to be your workers with the younger ones in our community. It is through your Son Jesus that you call us to help them. Teach us how to help them with their hopes and dreams and goals, and to offer them ways to achieve peace in mind and heart. Meet us all as your children as we hear your word and then our pondering mind. Through your Spirit, may hope then inform our words and our actions as we attempt to make this a place of gathering for all your people, not just on one day, but every day. That this may begin, open our minds and hearts even as we begin singing with words that we were given that bind us into one community. Our Father in heaven, Psalm 26 is suggested in the lectionary, yet it is contained in neither Voices United or the Book of Praise. It would be interesting to know why, but we're going to use what challenge it might offer us to think on. So let us join together. Vindicate me, Lord, for I have led a blameless life. I have trusted in the Lord and have not faltered.
Test me, Lord, and try me. Examine my heart and my mind, for I have always been mindful of your unfailing love and have lived in reliance on your faithfulness.
I do not sit with the deceitful, nor do I associate with hypocrites. I abhor the assembly of evildoers and refuse to sit with the wicked.
I wash my hands in innocence and go about your altar, Lord, proclaiming aloud your praise and telling of all your wondrous deeds.
Lord, I love the house where you live, the place where your glory dwells.
Do not take away my soul along with sinners, my life with those who are bloodthirsty, in whose hands are wicked schemes, whose right hands are full of bribes.
I lead a blameless life. Deliver me and be merciful to me.
My feet stand on level ground. In the great congregation, I will praise the Lord.
Words of old, written well over 2,000 years ago. But who among us can recite those words, believing what they or what we claim? Who among us has led a life with no regrets about how we may have negatively treated others? Made choices that endangered our lives and the lives of others? When we have believed that we are perfect, blameless, as the psalm says, with nothing to be remorseful over. To wish that we could go back and change because we know that God has been disappointed with us. Are we confident that on the day we arrive at the heavenly gates, if that's how we believe life will continue, will we stand proudly, maybe even pompously rather than humbly, with no doubts that we have led an impeccable life? Has there ever been a time, thinking of another verse down a little lower, has there ever been a time when we have doubted God's presence? Maybe because our prayers weren't answered the way we wanted them to be. Did we ever hang around with the wrong crowd and enjoy it? Then there are those lines further down. It says, Lord, I love the house where you live, the place where your glory dwells. You know, David was referring to the tabernacle as God's home, just as we might refer to this place, this building, this church as God's home. But do we still think of it like this? Has the idea that God lives here alone not changed over the years? Is this now seen more as a place where we can come to affirm that God finds a home in our hearts? God lives among all nature, all that God created, that God is at home where anyone is working in his Son's name. So could this be a welcoming place where people are encouraged to think about what they base their choices and decisions on? Where they come to understand what things like compassion and justice and fairness, community, inclusivity all look like, and why they're important qualities for all of us to live by. Could this be that place? This place of gathering, as our sign claims. Could it be such a welcoming place? Or do we want it to be a place just for the faithful? Perhaps only a Sunday place for gathering? In the last line of the psalm, it talks about being a great congregation. Are we a great congregation, as the psalm says, praising God with our efforts to be nurturers, mentors, guides to our youth, or whoever comes through these doors? Something to think about. And just in case the slides don't go, it's 2:24, okay, in the hymn book, okay? See if you can find the place where it connects with our theme for today. Can we sing? Okay, all of you?
No, it's fine as is.
us almost seem to be born with confidence. Just think of a young prodigy, a pianist, young pianist sitting on a bench, feet can't touch the floor, sitting confidently on the stage, surrounded by an orchestra, waiting for their cue, as if nothing special is going to happen. Or a young Greta Thunberg, speaking to an international audience, not even a high school graduate, and she's demanding that our lifestyle choices should reflect our concern with the effects of climate change. Her youth and blunt speaking manner fueled her rise to the status of a global icon. But most of our young people need to be nurtured into being achievers of whatever plans, hopes, and dreams they have, with whatever gifts and talents they possess. And that's where we come in, to support them in any possible way so that they know how to meet the challenges that arise, to get past the limitations that might be placed on them and their futures. So listen to these encouraging words from Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, that Paul wrote. You are young, but do not let anyone treat you as if you are not important. Be an example to show the believers how they should live. Show them with your words, with the way you live, with your love, with your faith, and with your pure life. And may these words of wisdom still hold relevance for those who are considered to be young today. I'm really pleased that Courtney Kruger is with us today. She is here to enlighten us about what she and other people are doing to support youth in this community. And I'll leave it to Courtney to introduce herself in more detail, but I thank you for coming, Courtney, and let's give her a welcome.
Oh, don't do that. Okay, keep going. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I've never done it that way. Yeah, you can, yeah.
Here we are.
Oh, great.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Courtney Kruger, and thank you for having me. I'm here on behalf of youth, as a parent, as an adult, and a part of this community. This is my hometown. I'm also an individual with lived experience and have gone through addiction and mental health. And now I'm a student with Northern College for Addiction, Mental Health, and Social Service work. And I plan to graduate next year. And I've also been on the action team for Planet Youth now for just over a year. So thank you for having me. Planet Youth is based on the Icelandic prevention model. It's not really a program in the traditional sense. It's an upstream, evidence-based primary prevention approach that was pioneered in Iceland to prevent youth substance use. We've expanded the approach to think holistically, not just about substance use, but about well-being, mental wellness, and how we can build supportive communities around children and youth. What makes this model so effective is its foundation in local data. Surveys of local teens and the community understand what's really going on in the lives of youth and young people. This data allows us to identify challenges and work together as a community to address them. What makes this model so effective is beyond gathering local data, Planet Youth encourages communities to work together and to actively invest their goal and invest in young people working together. This means providing them with the necessary support and opportunities so that they feel valued and connected. Doing this creates an environment where youth are more likely to thrive.
Just use the right button.
So to give some background on the origin, the Planet Youth approach has its roots in Iceland, starting back in the early 1900s. At that time, Iceland was facing a significant crisis as teen substance use rates were among the highest in Europe. Like many other countries around the world, Iceland had been relying on traditional school-based prevention programs. These programs focused on educating youth and young people about the dangers of drinking and drugs, emphasizing the idea that only youth were informed of the risks and would make the right choice. However, these programs weren't working. Now research supports and suggests that traditional programs aren't effective enough and aren't given that the place of the responsibility is solely on the youth, and we're just asking them to make the right choice in environments that often present them with all of the wrong ones. Whether it's peer pressure, easy access to substances, or lack of alternative activities, these environmental factors create challenges that information alone can't overcome. So the Planet Youth approach is that instead of expecting young people to make the right choices in difficult environments, that the model focuses on changing the environment itself, creating conditions that make healthy choices easier and more appealing. So one of the most effective and more efficient ways to promote long-term well-being for youth is by creating a strong, supportive community around them, so we can be a holistic value system to our community. When young people feel connected to their families, schools, peers, and communities, they are less likely to engage in risky behaviors, like substance use, for example. The Planet Youth approach is built around this concept of enhancing connections between youth and their environment, whether it's their family, friends, school, or broader community. The process is all about fostering relationships that help young people feel valued, supported, and engaged. By strengthening these bonds and creating environments where youth feel safe, connected, and empowered, we're not just addressing substance use, we're laying down the foundation for healthier, more resilient communities in the future. So when we talk about substance use within the Planet Youth approach, it's crucial to understand the concepts and risks of the protective factors. The risk factors are the aspects of a child or adolescent's life that increase the likelihood of engaging in substance use early, and also of experiencing negative outcomes related to early use. These could include things like family conflict, peer pressure, or lack of positive activities or support systems. Risk factors increase the odds of negative outcomes, but they don't guarantee it. So the protective factors are the conditions that buffer children and youth from exposure or risk to negative life experiences, by either reducing the impact of the risk or changing the way that young people respond to risks. Strengthening children's protective factors to offset the negative impact of risk is essential to supporting children's resilience. This image of a scale represents a resilience model. A child is more likely to have a positive outcome when positive factors outweigh risk factors, and more vulnerable when risk factors outweigh protective factors. Not all risk factors are preventable. However, we might mitigate the impact of risk factors by piling up on those protective factors that tip the scale in the first place. Protective factors identified through research include strong family bonds, positive relationship with peers and adults, their engagement in school, and involvement in community activities. Building and strengthening these protective factors within the 4 domains is key to reducing the risks associated with substance use. Well, adults have a responsibility to be agents of protection, both in the home, at school, and in the community to promote these protective factors. So we all play a valuable part in that. No matter if we have kids, just even as a community member, looking out for them, it's part of being an active community member. At home, parents and caregivers can provide protective factors by celebrating healthy choices, finding healthy activities to do together, etc. So even just the small things like storing your medication safely so it can't be accessed. That's a small step. Or saying no because we love you. That's also another step. And then in school, in the community, we just promote different activities and organizations that are going on to make these networking connections as individuals and as leaders to share our gifts. So it's not a very exhaustive list. They're very small, but they're all things that we can do to take part as an agent of protection. Based on the survey results, Iceland delivered some interventions that targeted the local challenges that they were seeing. They raised the legal age to buy tobacco and alcohol, and advertising for it was banned. Parents were encouraged to attend talks on the importance of spending more time with their children, rather than just occasional quality time. Parental agreements were introduced, including things like not allowing their kids to have unsupervised parties, to not supply alcohol to minors, and to keep an eye on the well-being of their children. As a team, all members of the community. These agreements were meant to educate parents and to also help strengthen their authority in the home by shifting norms for the whole cohort. A leisure card was also introduced with a set amount per child to pay for recreational activities. These are just a few of the interventions that Iceland chose based off the survey data in their local context and needs. As you can see, the interventions are wide-reaching, targeting children all the way through their teen years. And this is just some of the data that we have shared locally. This graphic shows some of the trends from 1997 to 2022. You can see a drastic downward trend from being drunk in the last 30 days, daily smoking, and lifetime use of cannabis. At the same time, we're seeing significant increases in the time spent with parents during the weekends, as well as participation in organized activities. This is a great example of the protective factors in action, and how things like spending more time with family and being able to access organized activities can correlate to decreased substance use over time. So Planning Youth started in 2023, although there's been planning for several years now. It's coordinated by the Timiskaming Health Unit, and it's guided by a district-wide steering committee with representation from a wide variety of partners, including school boards, municipalities, health, social services, and community organizations. Though the project is district-wide, what happens in response to our local data is really driven by 3 local action teams. Through the project, this district covers the North team, which is Kirkland Lake and surrounding communities. The Central team covers Englehart, Earlton, all the way to Elk Lake. And then we have the South team that covers Thornlow all the way up to Tenaucknee. So the survey was in the fall of 2023, so just about a year ago now. And the survey answers were all confidential and anonymous. The students could answer honestly and without fear that they will be identified for the responses. The data was designed to survey youth aged 12 to 18, and we surveyed grades 10 to 11 across the district. And all 5 high schools in the district participated, and we heard back from 555 students, grades 10 and 11, achieving an 83% response rate from the youth. So this survey will be repeated every 2 years, and this allows us to monitor and spot any new trends, and to see if our actions are having any effect in our community. So again, 550 students participated across the district, and 88 students in Central Timiskaming, so from our area, participated. And the next few slides is just a little bit of information from our Central Timiskaming area specifically. So some of this would have been seen in your pamphlets that were handed out. well. So the survey was designed to give us a good overall understanding of the conditions in our community and provide us some insight into the lives and lifestyles of the young people in our community. It asked about substance use and perceptions, their family, friends, how they spend their leisure time, school activities, school factors, well-being, and how they feel in their community. So in general, we're seeing that youth are not meeting sleep guidelines for their age group. We only have 38% females and 40% of males sleeping 8 hours or more per night on average. And our youth's mental health is suffering as well. Only 25% of females and 40% of boys rating their mental health as good or very good. And we also noticed that girls are faring significantly worse than boys when it comes to these well-being stats. We have 44% have tried alcohol at the age of 13 or younger in our community. 30 have been drunk in the last 30 days, 30%. 47 drink alcohol in their own home, and 50% get alcohol from a family member. So often we're really seeing that. So even just the small changes of, not allowing that, no, because I love you. These changes are small, they're significant, and they impact youth to a variable degree. So overall, pretty high numbers that indicate that we have a culture that normalizes drinking, and teen drinking in particular. So pretty low numbers on cigarette smoking, but now the issue really is the vaping, with 17% reporting daily vaping and 25% using cannabis within the last month. So we asked the students how their parents would feel if they used substances, and 78% would disapprove that if they used cannabis, meaning that their parents would be totally or very much against it. So this seems high, but compared to other communities they've worked with around the world, 78% is actually quite low. It's usually a lot closer to 90%. So we want to try to get that up a little bit. Only 53% believe that their parents would disapprove of drunkenness, also quite low. So it connected with high numbers of alcohol drinking. And 66% spend time with their parents on weekends and 60% on weekdays, so a little over half. But we're seeing the correlation between time spent with family and the substance use factors. And for this one for school, the gender difference between students who are often or always bored with their studies, 22% is girls versus 33% for boys. 64% of girls think that the adults in their school would care about them, and 53% for boys. 71% of girls and 79% of boys have friends at school that care about them, so almost a quarter of students don't have friends that care. This is unchosen loneliness. 60% feel safe at school. This stat requires some more discussion with students, and maybe focus groups to understand this one. Because when we analyze this stat, we see that there is bullying or having friends that are grown up at the school that they can talk to. So we're seeing outcomes of safety, but the feelings that we're getting from the youth, they're not feeling safe. So whatever we're putting in place, it's not being felt. So regardless of our efforts, something needs to change. And this one, slightly higher percent of girls who play sports with a team three times a week or more, 31% for girls versus 21% for boys. And 37% of boys and 64% of girls spend 3 hours or more on social media. Strong correlation between hours spent on social media, between lack of sleep and mental health. We can't blame social media, but there's a correlation. And high numbers of kids who are out late, more likely to use substances, and also to not get good night's sleeps. So 31%, only about 1/3 of students think that there are enough activities for youth that are available. This is quite low. 30% say that they want to continue to live in their neighborhood, but this is a big opportunity for our community to address this. We need to give youth reasons to stay, or to go off and to explore the world, but also have a desire to come back to our community, because they all know that they can have a life here and it's a safe place to come back to. So over the summer, our action team went through a priority setting process, and they landed on 3 priorities based on the data and feedback from our local youth. So our action is to increase activities for youth, especially 12 and up, improve youth's sense of belonging and connection to their community and with community members, and to build community awareness of the risks of drug and alcohol use. We are now building an action plan to support these goals, and something we're currently on is recruiting community experts who'd like to teach their skills to young people through single session workshops or through activities after school and on weekends, potentially. Joanna actually has a post if you guys are on the Englehart Recreation. She's calling all community experts with gifts. If anybody is interested, you can respond to that. So how to get involved? It really does take a village. We have an excellent action team, and we're always accepting new members who want to work together to make our community better for young people. Another way that we can engage is to review our local data and see what youth have to say about growing up in Central Timiskaming. This data is available for anyone to view on the TimiskamingYouth.ca website, and the data is intended to be used by the community, and we highly encourage youth-serving organizations to use them to inform their work as well. If you want to stay informed, please follow Planet Youth Timiskaming or Englehart Recreation on Facebook. You can share it with your friends and neighbors and encourage them to follow you to have open discussions in our community. It's not a magic bullet solution. Sorry guys, talked too much today so far. The changes they had in Iceland were significant, but we can see here that it has taken 20 years to get where we are now. That's a bit of time. So some of the key factors of this type of success is the diversion of resources upstream, and the ability to collect and to use timely local data and to address some of the root causes of early substance use. It takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes a village, but we can do this together. As a community, we need to give our children and teens the proper tools to support their positive development, and they will in the future give the best of themselves. Thank you very much, guys. I also have some cards if anybody has any questions.
Courtney, there was a thing earlier on the slides with Iceland, and it talked about a leisure card.
Yes.
How many kids in our community can't afford to join in any of these activities?
There's quite a few. And if they can afford, a lot of them don't necessarily want to be in sports or organized activities. They want to be in crafts and art and sewing and something arts and cultural. We're seeing a huge request for arts and cultural. Like the school has sports and there is some funding and whatnot. But yeah, there are many youth that just don't do it because they either live out of town or they can't afford it or it's not what they want.
That live out of town thing is a problem.
It's an issue,
Yeah.
especially with not having transportation in Englehart.
Yeah. So that leisure card, is that like a credit card for them, like a debit card?
So basically it kind of works, it's almost like a library card, but it does work like a debit card, so you refill it or whatever the parent does, and then they can use it for any of these leisure activities or different workshops. So it's something the parent can set up in advance, and then it's controlled, they're not running around with money, it's for a specific purpose. Yeah, so it really helps them when they're independent and on their own to still have safe boundaries. I think it's a really cool idea that they did in Iceland.
So these activities that Joanna is promoting, are they going to be, is there going to be a cost with those?
No. So I have, as the placement student for Northern College with Joanna, my work all ties in together right now, which is wonderful. But I have recently applied for a grant for $3,000, and I'm hoping that it covers the costs of all these workshops. So we're hoping, but we have asked to do 8 workshops from October to May to start for the youth and free of charge. So we work on community gifts, and we give back to the volunteers, of course, right? Thank them for their time. But we just want to have something that's open, a workshop series where they can choose and there's no restrictions or barriers to use or access, whether that be cost or anything. And because we don't have a brick and mortar place for youth to go currently, we're going to focus on using different buildings in our community and share the spaces. So whether that's the library, whether that's potentially here, downstairs, up here, we have this beautiful area too that you guys have provided and share. But really on center of the arena, we're just trying to open up all these spaces to make these connections in our community. And yes, the focus is youth, but really it's for everyone. It really is.
Courtney, you mentioned that these things are sort of a call to experts, so to speak. But I believe probably you don't have to be an expert to do any of these things. So I'd like to make sure that, to clarify the point that if any of us know how to do something that we enjoy doing, and obviously we probably know how to do it better than somebody who's never done it before, then we can, we could be the expert, so to speak, even though we may not consider ourselves to be experts, right?
You make a really good point, and I think most of us that are well knowledgeable in one area or another, we'd be the last person to call ourselves an expert. Jack of all trades and a master of none. But those are the community gifts that we speak of, and we can change the verbiage too if that's preferred, but community gifts is a wonderful thing. So anything that you may have to offer. So for example, bike repair was one of our things, right? We had a gentleman speak out and he's like, hey, I know how to fix bikes from start to finish. That would be a great thing, and then providing kids with a bike repair kit so that they know how, and it's a transferable skill. But he doesn't have to be trained professional, no, he just knows how to do stuff, and that's exactly it, Randy. We just want those gifts that people have and pull on them, because they're transferable and they're shareable, and we have them, right? So let's share them.
What I've learned too, which was interesting and a little bit surprising to me, was that especially the younger teens are interested in things like crocheting and knitting and quilting and all these things that I didn't expect at this point in time that kids at that age would be interested in. And I'm sure there's even a lot of people here who know how to do those things that might be willing to pass them along. But the interest that the youth have seems to cover quite a broad spectrum. And so that's why I assume your list was quite long. So the potential is there for a lot of different things.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do agree, we are seeing a bit of that shift, and I do think we have a bit of technology to thank for that. In our community, we're very kind of old-fashioned, right? We're very historical, and we take pride in that. And the community youth, they do recognize that, and the ones that are really pulling away from the sports and that are really identifying these needs of these other activities that are wholesome and that are cultural or diverse, they're the ones that are seeing that need for the basic skills and knowledge that maybe they missed out on, or maybe their generation hasn't been exposed to. And I agree, I was exposed to many of that as a child too, but it's really phased out. And the less connection that I had growing up in my teenage years with that kind of stuff, it kind of phased out more. So as much as it's a negative, it's a positive that it is coming back, and we do have these gifts to share, so it comes back around. Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask right now? I do have some cards too, if anybody would like to make contact afterwards or email. I'm open for conversation. Alright. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Courtney.
Courtney obviously has the magic touch because this thing is still on. This is wonderful. We're gonna sing. We're gonna sing. And you can't look at a book, so this has to stay here. Okay. Writer down in the United States, but everything seemed to fit what we were talking about today. So may all that we have to offer, our time, our talents, our resources, be gathered up, literally or figuratively, that this congregation might be among those who nurture our young people into wholeness. Oh, just before Roma starts, isn't this a wonderful old box? Look at it. Now, the fact that it sort of has a lock on it, is interesting. But, yeah, that's beautiful. Where does this thing go? planted faithfully and nurtured lovingly, so that God's love may be found among the youth in this community.
Grant us the humility we need to plant and attend your precious children. Amen.
The figure that shocked me most was the amount of social media time girls use. Like 30, 60! As I sat there, all last evening thinking that I'd actually done all my work, that I was ready. I had this plan and I sat for 3 hours on social media. This is not good. So, what's happening? Flu and COVID shots tomorrow at the arena, and then again on the 21st. It's just,
And the flu shot too.
yeah, the flu shot.
High dose for us old people.
Oh, for us old people. Yes, I think it's only old people tomorrow, isn't it?
No, it's
for everybody?
compromised as well.
Okay. Yeah, so, you might have to wait because of my thing. Bible study on Wednesday at 9:30. There is that request, as Courtney said, for the people, for your skills, and that is, you just go on Facebook, then you type in Englehart Recreation and Events, and it comes up, calling for community experts. So if you think you have something to share, think about it. There's always two of you, right, that can get together and do it. Takes away some of the fear.
Excuse me, Elaine.
Pardon?
Courtney, can you verify for people who may not be using Facebook, how to do that without being online?
For sure, I have some contact cards here that I brought with me.
Okay.
One is my harm reduction outreach, but it has my email on there, so you can email, you can text me, whatever you'd like. See me on the street, ask me a question, however you'd like. I'm pretty open.
Phone Joanna maybe?
Yeah, you can phone Joanna as well.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Or get in touch with Randy and tell him. Yeah. Good one. Yes. That's
Okay.
right. That's right. Randy, you've got a question. You've got a challenge.
Oh, yes, I do have a question.
Can I say something?
Oh,
Just for Courtney, I was thinking that there's lots of youth that have skills to exchange, especially to older people, like all the technology, that we need help with.
Yeah. Two with help.
That would be, would be a on their own, and they couldn't do that themselves.
That's a good idea. It would be a bad idea to reach out to the high schools,
Yeah,
requesting all for trades.
and I always have to work on
Service
my kid. But, there's so much knowledge there already.
We would like to share.
they could just drop by my house for today. No problem. No problem.
I have one.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't have proper details, but the Englehart cadets are having a spaghetti supper. I think it's the last Saturday of the month.
Oh, okay. Last Saturday,
Of this month,
Of this
of
month.
October, I think.
spaghetti, did you say?
Spaghetti.
At the Legion.
No, it'll be at the arena.
At the arena. Oh, this is the big one. Okay. Big one last Saturday.
Yeah.
Did they change the date?
Did they change the date? Why is it not the last one?
The 19th.
The 19th? Okay. Okay. Sorry.
19th?
The spaghetti supper is the 19th.
At least that's before we won't miss it.
Yeah. So.
That's good, yeah. Randy, challenge us.
Is the 19th a Saturday?
I don't think so.
Yes, it is. Is it? Yeah, because yesterday was the 5th, right?
There you go.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I just.
So, there was a lot of hallelujah today,
Yeah.
as you may recall. So, can you think of what the roots of that are, or where it may have come from? It shows up a lot for in one place anyway, in the Bible, in the first few verses of Revelation. I'll have to look up Revelation. 19, the first few verses of 19. So hallelujah, does that say anything to you about what the roots of that might be? We use it for all kinds of things, you know? Sometimes there's a good thing that happens and we'll say hallelujah. So according to our daily bread, it has two root words, the Hebrew halal, to praise, and Yah, which is this first syllable of Yahweh, right? So it means to praise God. Hallelujah.
So we just got our first word in Hebrew all under the belts. And the next word, another word next week. This isn't necessarily a good news story, but last week when we were talking about trees, and then about cutting them down and animals being displaced, and I thought this is a revenge. This is a revenge.
Oh.
Isn't that a good one? I thought that was really good. Just for those that don't get it, it's the place to do his business. Yes, yes. So that's a, yeah. Is there anything else we need to share? Okay. So let's pray. You are our God who keeps an eye on all your people. And when you see one of us struggling in any way, you use your people as your hands and feet and voice to help them navigate any hurdles they are challenged with. We know of those among us, or those we know, who are in need of your tender and healing embrace, and we think of Dot and Duffy and Maud. May they feel the presence of your spirit. Today we especially hold up the young people in our community in their formative years. We know that each of them has their own personal issues and aspirations that can cause them anxiety or times of depression, just worry about what lies ahead for them, for their family, for the world, the future. Things can get tough. Standing up for what is right can be an unpopular thing to do. Peer pressure can be daunting, and they may feel pulled in a million different directions. They, like we, can find signs of hope even fading. Safe places may seem scarce. Peace of mind and heart elude them. Strength and courage to overcome whatever obstacle they may be facing may seem in short supply. They're trying to figure out who they are, what they believe in, and where they fit into the world. And on top of these things, they're dealing with the ups and downs of friendships and relationships. All of these things are so much to handle, but especially when they don't feel supported by those around them. So we should wonder, God, if any of these challenges, did they have to be faced when we were young? Did we need help but not find it? Or were our lives always ordered with your hopes and dreams for your children foremost in our plans? Were our problems the same as those of young people today? Not likely, because times have changed, circumstances are different, but our feelings may be the same. With that in mind, may we accept the challenges to be who they need in their lives, to provide some of the physical things which could help them feel accepted and cared for, to be open-minded and unjudgmental as we listen to their concerns and needs, because these are the things that Jesus would want us to do. May we be among those who can help to heal their bodies and minds, renew their sense of hope, give them new reasons to strive for their personal best in whatever direction their gifts point them. Through what we say and do, individually and as a congregation, may they find evidence of your love for them and your desire for wholeness in their bodies and spirits. Bless all our efforts. partners with them on their life's journey. All these things we hold up to you, our guide and mentor, who assures us of unconditional love for us all. Amen. So I chose the last hymn, number 603, should these things disappear. In loving partnership we come. And these are words that we all need to hear.
In loving partnership we come, seeking, O God, your will to do. Farmers and actions now receive, we can offer them to you. We are the hands and feet of Christ, serving by grace each other's need. We give the risk and sacrifice, with the word and faithful deed. Loving community we see, your hope and strength within us move. Honor and rich, strong and weak, are loved together in your love. In loving partnership, O God, help us your future to proclaim. Justice and peace be our desire. We humbly pray in Jesus' name.
So may we enter into the week ahead with possible hopes and plans for our community's youth, percolating in such a way that they bubble over into real time. Also that our children and youth may be they're positive beneficiaries, all in Christ's name, and the one who said, "Let the children alone and do not hinder them from coming to me, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these."
Never be afraid. God will go in and reach out every day. Go now in faith, steadfast, strong and true. No God will guide you in all you do. Go now in love and show reach out to others so all the world can see. God dwells in us, working from within. Go now in peace, in faith, and in
And just some thoughts to share that I'll read out. We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. And young people need models, not critics. And from John Denver, I would so much like young people to have a sense of the gift that they are. So, things to ponder on as we get out into our week. So thank you very much for your patience. Thank you, Courtney, for sharing. We are much more organized on every other Sunday of the year.